Thank you guys for having me. It's so good to see everybody. You kind of stole my thunder, CL, because I was going to talk about the at-large council elections first. Yeah, so we have something. So I'm here to talk about the municipal ballot measures, right? Remember, municipal, state, totally different, but they will be on the same ballot. So you guys are going to have a very long ballot that comes to you in November with a ton of questions and a ton of people to vote for. I'm going to talk specifically about the ones that impact the city of Denver. And then as CL said, she's trying to get everyone together to talk about the state level ones and things like that. Because I don't know. I don't know more than you guys do. Can I come that night and learn? That would be great. The one thing that I don't have in my presentation that I want to just start with is sort of an explanation of what is going on with city council and a vote in November. So municipal elections in the city of Denver always happen in April of an odd year, every 4 years. So the next city council, mayor, auditor elections, clerk and recorder elections are in April of 2027. However, our current city council, which goes until inauguration day, which is July of 2027, lost a member last week. We had a member resign. If you know Sarah Parody, she is absolutely amazing and brilliant. She will be very, very missed. And we're really sorry to see her go, but this was a choice that she made, and I think it's the right choice for her. It's incredibly rare that we have a vacancy at city council that needs to be filled, but we do. And so on your November election ballot, you are going to see a vote for a member of city council. And you're going to be like, what? Why? This is April. What is happening? You're right. It's very confusing. It is incredibly rare that something like this happens. But when a city council member resigns, there has to be a special election by city charter within 90 days of the resignation to fill that seat. It's not like other city councils, like Aurora City Council. The city council members appoint someone to fill that role. It's not how it happens in Denver. How it happens in Denver is voters elect a city council member. Because Councilmember Parody was a council member at large, that means that this seat that is now available will represent the entire city of Denver. So the entire city of Denver will see this one city council seat election on your November ballot. So it's a little bit confusing. It is incredibly rare that this happens. The last time it happened was in 2002. And then obviously with the loss of Carla Madison, but that was a very different situation because she was already on the ballot. So the most recent time that a vacancy has happened in city council was like 2002. So a long, long time ago. So this is very rare. Don't be confused. It is not a misprint. It truly is to fill that city council seat from November when the election happens until the following July when the entire new city council class is inaugurated. So, like I said, a little bit weird, but I wanted to just be really clear about what happened here and why this is the way it is. The November election is under the old rules. So interestingly, the November election is sort of under the old rules. This is a little bit weird. So last year, you all voted on a charter change, which changed the at-large city council seats from 2 seats that just whoever got the most votes won to a requirement that both of those seats receive 50% of the vote. So this year, because we were not anticipating a vacancy, there was no language in that charter change about what to do if there is something that comes up before the April elections. So what will happen is it is a specific seat B, right? We have City Council at Large A, City Council at Large B now, and each of those seats has to get 50% of the vote in April. In November, it will be whoever just gets the most votes. So it's also a little bit confusing. I'm happy to answer any questions on that, but that's where we are. It's a little cattywampus. I recognize that. No one anticipated that this was going to happen. But it did. Here we are. And Councilmember Parity resigned on the 90th day before the election happened. So what that means is that we don't have to pay the money to do a special ballot and send it out to the entire city for one seat. It will be on the November ballot. Questions on this before I go on, because I know it's a little confusing. All right, great. Well, then let's talk about the ballot measures. I'm wearing my city council badge, so I can't tell you whether I support or am against something. But I want to at least present to you all of the things that you're going to see on the ballot. There are 5, and I'm going to skip over the Excel one because Denise can talk about it way better than I can. So, let's start with the auditor's office charter change. So the auditor's office, next slide, please. So the auditor's office, and before I move on, does anyone need a handout? All of this stuff, you can grab one over here so everyone's got one. The auditor's office has been conducting wage-related enforcement since 1950. There are federal wage laws, there are state wage laws, there are local wage laws, and so over time, what the charter of the City and County of Denver says is anyone who wants to, any city council who votes to give authority to the auditor's office, the auditor then has to execute on. So since 1950, the auditor's office has been executing with Denver Labor on ensuring workplace safety, ensuring fair wages, all of those different kinds of things. But the charter only says the auditor's office has the authority to do auditing stuff and whatever other things city council tells them to do. So I think it's really important that we clarify the charter, and that's what we're doing with this update. It just clarifies the charter to essentially say very clearly what the auditor's office has already been doing since 1950. If you want to go to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about it. So, yeah. Why don't I do questions at the end of each one? Does that sound good? Okay, I got you. So there was a 2016 update to prevailing wage, and what it did was improve processes, make things make sense, all of that kind of stuff. And then in 2023, we updated the law, which is an ordinance, which told the auditor's office, you need to go out and you need to interpret wage, you need to do wage investigations, you need to interpret wage issues, you need to listen to take in complaints on wage-related issues for businesses that are doing work in the City and County of Denver. And so with that, we created a prevailing wage administrator position within Denver Labor in the auditor's office. So now the auditor's office very clear, and I wrote all this stuff, so so I know a lot about it. I could go on this forever. But so now the auditor's office has very clear authority and a requirement via ordinance that the auditor's office through the Denver Labor Division of the auditor's office manages prevailing wage. Prevailing wage is a federal law. The city's prevailing wage law says you qualify for prevailing wage if you're doing qualified work and you spend over $2,000 in the city of Denver, and then in all other ways follows the federal Davis-Bacon Act. So that's prevailing wage. The next one that the auditor's office does is minimum wage enforcement. So minimum wage was approved by Denver City Council in 2020. And since 2020, the auditor's office has been out there working really, really hard to ensure that everyone knows what Denver's minimum wage is. Denver's minimum wage is very high. Next year will be $19.38, I think, $19.38. And while that is high, it is actually not a living wage in Denver based on the cost of living in Denver. So that minimum wage is incredibly important because what it does is it makes our businesses very attractive with a limited staffing and talent pool because they get paid more here. And then finally, next slide, please, wage theft, which is another ordinance that I wrote. And what it does, in 2023, we passed the wage theft law that requires the auditor's office to enforce on any complaint they receive. So if someone comes in and says, I have had wage theft committed against me, and this is things we see all the time, particularly in several specific industries. It's things like, I was told to work through my lunch, but I wasn't paid for it. Or I was told to stay until 7 o'clock and my workday ended at 5 and I wasn't paid for it. Or what was really bad and what we saw a lot of, particularly in the construction industry, was things like companies who would pay, particularly drywallers, they would come, they would do the work, and then the company would declare bankruptcy and never pay for the work. So wage theft is a $300 million a year problem in the state of Colorado. It's a really big deal, and we at City Council decided we were not going to allow that to happen in our city anymore. The auditor's office is in charge of enforcing that. So again, what this charter change does is it just clarifies very clearly in the language of the charter that the auditor's office has the authority to do what they have already been doing since 1950 in ensuring that people get paid for the work that they do in the city of Denver. So that's that one. Let's stop there, and any questions on that one? Yeah. Great question. So the question was, how do we know that the auditor's office has sufficient personnel to do this? And the answer is because we have grown their budget by over 40% in the last 4 years to ensure that they do. Great. So the question was, is this an administrative proceeding or is this done through the courts? Fantastic question. I know you're a judge. The answer is, or used to be, the answer is that what we did when we wrote this wage theft law, civil wage theft law, was we set up an administrative pathway, knowing that the vast majority of people who are filing complaints are low wage workers or workers who do not have legal status in our country. And so we didn't want them to have to go to court, because if they go to court, they won't go, and so they won't complain. So we wrote it in a way that allows for an administrative hearing officer to hear it first, and then as an appeal, it can go to district court. Does that make sense? Yeah, great. Other questions? Yeah.
Does it also allow for no punishment against the person for filing?
Correct. It has a non-retaliation clause written into it. The question was, does it allow for people to ensure that they don't lose their jobs or get in trouble if they make a claim like this? And that's a really good flag because we see that all the time. Yeah. Any other questions on this one? All right, then we're going to go to the next one, our budget process charter change. I wrote this one also. So this charter change does 4 things. It allows for the potential of moving to a 2-year budget. There's a process put in place for that where City Council and the Mayor's office have to file a resolution by January 31st of every year to make the determination of whether it's going to be a 1-year budget or a 2-year budget. I can tell you right now, the next couple of years, just based on the financial status of the city, it's not going to be a 2-year budget. But if you look back historically at times like 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, even all the way up until COVID in 2020, the ability to do a 2-year budget where the first year would be finalized and the second year would be a draft budget makes a lot of sense. It helps our community partners because then they can staff and plan better. It helps, I don't know about you, but I ain't never seen a parks project that took a year. So, and remember, our fiscal year goes from January 1st to December 31st of every year, right? So there are specific budget issues that span more than 1 year, particularly with Parks and Dottie, that it would be valuable for us to have that 2-year budget to take a look at. So that's kind of this slide here. Next slide. The second thing it does is it requires a public process in order to get resident feedback so that you can say what is important to you and how you want your tax dollars spent. So a little bit of inside baseball sausage making here. The way the budget process works is that the mayor starts creating the budget in April of the year and has internal conversations with all the city agencies and then presents that budget that they have created to the public and city council on September 15th. It's like a 1,000-page document. I have actually received that the day before budget hearings start. It's ridiculous. Don't worry, I'm changing that too. That's coming up. But what it does, what never happens is the mayor's office never asks you what you want done with your tax dollars. And they're your tax dollars. So you should have a say. The fact that there is no feedback process at all for saying, hey, this is important to me or this is not important to me, is a really big deal. So what this does in this charter change and companion ordinance is it creates a process where the mayor's office is required to go out and do a public feedback process with the residents of the city and county of Denver before they start developing their budget. Yeah. The question was, how will that be done? And my answer to you is that feels like a mayor's office problem. But they have committed to it. They are very supportive of this as well. They get it, they agree, and they have committed to ensuring that there is a public process. And frankly, I think it will depend on whether it's a 1-year budget or a 2-year budget, because a 1-year budget might require a smaller, faster process, and a 2-year budget might require more and community, meetings in community and all those kinds of things. I stay in my lane here. My lane as a city council member is not to tell the mayor's office how to do their job. It is to tell them that they have to do it. Right. So that's up to them to decide. Next slide, please. So the third thing it does is it moves up the budget timeline. This is what I talked about. The mayor releases the budget on September 15th. Budget hearings then come that next week. So at best case scenario, I've been here 7 years. Best case scenario, I've gotten 6 days to read a 1,000-page document and prepare for budget hearings. So what this is going to do, same charter change, is it removes, there's a July 1st date where they put out a budget that it's wrong, and all it does is spread misinformation. So we're going to move that September 15th date to the first Friday of September. Sometimes that'll be September 1st, sometimes it'll be September 7th, sometimes it'll be somewhere in between. But the point is that it buys extra time for the public and city council to be able to actually look through that 1,000-page financial document and develop meaningful questions about what that budget is and what the impacts are going to be on residents of city and county of Denver. The other thing it does is that the final budget is now set on the second Friday in October instead of the last Friday in October. And this is a big deal because what it does, or the third Monday in October, because what it does is it allows for an extra week of time on the calendar for council and the community to do budget amendments, to propose budget amendments. And then you'll still have an opportunity at city council to come and comment for 3 minutes during the hearing for the budget. None of that changes. But what changes is it gives you more time to say, I don't like that we're spending $100 million on a ballroom. A little bit different because that's a capital expense, but yes, I don't like that we're spending $100 million on a ballroom. I can't imagine where that came from. And so we want to do a budget amendment where we split that $100 million up over several other programs that need to be funded more, et cetera, right? So that's what that does. And then finally, it sets in place a formal process for when revenues decline or expenditures outpace revenues. So there is a requirement in the charter of the city and county of Denver that the budget be balanced. But there is no definition for what a balanced budget is. And as you have seen over the last few years, we have come to a situation where the budget is out of whack. So it can get out of whack mid-year because expenditures are over what we anticipated, or because revenues are under what we anticipated, or both, right? We saw revenues being over what we anticipated during the migrant crisis. We did not know that Greg Abbott was going to dump 44,000 immigrants on without shoes or pants or coats in January in Colorado on our front doorstep. And so we were unprepared and we did not budget for that. And the budget got out of whack, right? We know this year our sales tax revenues are softer than what we had anticipated. And so there's less money coming in than what we had budgeted for. Either one of those things puts the budget out of whack. And we have to bring it back into whack. Do you like my technical term, whack? So there's basically two things that this then requires. If the budget is out of whack by 2%-ish, then the mayor's office, the Department of Finance are required to come to city council and the public and provide a clear path of how they are going to bring the budget back into whack, right? If the budget gets out of whack by 5% or more, which happened last year, which is why we had layoffs, which is about $100 million. So we're not talking like a small amount of money here, right? Then city council has to reappropriate the dollars in the budget. The mayor's office just doesn't get to decide that they're going to fix it however they want to anymore. So these things are really important. Budgets are boring. I understand they're very nitpicky. But what happened last year will not happen again on my watch. You guys have the power to vote yes or no on it. But I wrote it with the specific goal in mind of ensuring that what happened last year will not happen again. Next slide, please. All right, before we move on, any questions on that one? Okay. So we have I have a question. Where? Yes, my friend.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Yeah.
And wonderful work that you put together for these ballot measures.
Thank you. Thank you.
Does this somehow bring in the strong mayor position that we have in Denver?
Yeah, so the question was, does this rein in the strong mayor form of government? And the answer to that is no. It does not rewrite the strong mayor form of government. Hold on, let me take off my badge here for a second. Hi, citizen Amanda Sawyer here to tell you it's my opinion that we need to rip up the charter of the city and county of Denver and start entirely over with it. Okay, I'm back. No, but what it does is it puts some guardrails around it, right? It makes sure that there are 13 sets of eyes that are looking at it, which is what you elected us to do, that are involved in the conversation, that it is public so everyone knows what is going on. All of those different kinds of good governance things that do not change the strong mayor form of government, but that do put some guardrails around it when we see like what happened last year happen. Yeah. Was there another question over here? I thought I saw a hand. Yeah.
I just want to know what DLF is.
Oh, the Department of Finance. I thought you said DLF. Yeah, DOF is the Department of Finance. That's right. Yes, in the back.
How much detail is required in the budget document that will be sufficient for public input? I'm just wondering, for example, parks improvement. Does the park need to be named? Does the improvement need to be named? How much will be in the budget document?
It's a great question. So the question was, how specific is the budget that we see at the city and county of Denver? And the example was, can you see one specific park in that budget? And the answer to that is no. Denver does not budget on a programmatic level. So there are certain programs that you'll be able to see in the budget, usually because they're grant funded, so those dollars are very clearly restricted. But when it comes to general fund dollars that are being that are used for programmatic things within agencies, that is the decision of the mayor, and that is the decision of the executive director of that agency. Yeah. This is why Mike said, does this rein in the strong mayor form of government? Yeah. Okay. Civil service charter change. So this one I did not write. This one was written by Councilwoman Sandoval and Councilwoman Torres, but they did a fantastic job with it. So our Civil Service Commission, do you guys know what our Civil Service Commission is and what they do? They hire our police officers and our firefighters. That's what they do. And so we have a civilian commission that actually meets and goes through all of the applications to hire our police officers and our firefighters and our sheriffs. So what this charter change does is it moves some weird operational details around. Our charter was written in 1916, right? And so I'm going to give you like a really clear example of it right here in the middle. The Public Safety Cadet Program right now exists in the charter of the City and County of Denver, which is stupid in and of itself, but it sits under the manager of safety, not in the division of the police department. And so it's just, there's just like weird legacy stuff that has existed over time that is really getting in the way of being able to manage the civil service process, to be able to hire more quickly, to ensure that people are qualified, to do background checks, all of these different things. So, this is the list on this slide of charter change, of the things that this charter change does. There are a lot of them. But it is meant overarchingly to fix a lot of the operational day-to-day problems that we see happening, that we hear about from Civil Service Commission members who are like, God, we really wish this didn't happen, or this doesn't make any sense, or any of those different kinds of things. So this is a good one that really does some cleanup. If we can't rip up the charter of the City and County of Denver and start all over again, this is the next best thing, and that is going through section by section and fixing some of the crazy stuff that's in there. I don't know if you guys remember this, but like 2021, you voted on a charter change that I sent to the ballot to, I think the title of it was Modernizing the Charter of the City and County of Denver. And that's because the charter did not allow for remote meetings or remote access. Because in 1916, they didn't have technology, right? And so COVID happened, and because we were in an emergency, we could go remote and make it happen, but we couldn't stay that way forever. So we had to actually change the charter of City and County of Denver in order to be able to have remote meetings. This is like crazy stuff, but this is what happens when your charter was written in 1916, more than 100 years ago. And so this is another one of those. So there will also be a companion ordinance with this one, and what it does is it moves stuff out of the charter so that we can change it if we need to, as opposed to having to go to vote of the people. It just moves it into ordinance so that it requires a majority of city council members to make those changes. So there are some more updates that need to happen, but first it's got to go into ordinance so we can make those updates. So that's the companion ordinance. Excel franchise agreement, I'm going to go quickly through this one because Denise is here and she's got you on this one. So City and County of Denver, we have, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, question. Yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead, hit me.
So these ordinances are yay or nay, right? And you either vote for the whole.
You vote for the, yes, you either vote yes or no.
Or no on the whole package.
Correct.
I'm on the package.
Okay, let me make sure I understand your question. I think what you are asking me is, do you, when you get to, the clerk's office hasn't numbered them yet, otherwise I would have them on here and it would be a lot more clear, right? But so let's say it's like 2A. Is the budget charter change, and 2B is the auditor's office charter change, and 2C is the civil commission charter change, right? So you either vote yes or no on 2A. You vote yes or no on 2B. You vote yes or no on 2C. But no, you don't vote on all of them at the same time. Correct. Yes. Right. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Where it says move the public safety to get toward the manager of safety.
Uh-huh.
And maybe misunderstood you, but I thought you said it's currently under the manager of safety and it should be under the police.
Oh, did I say that backwards? I meant that the other way around. Yes, it's currently under DPD and it's moving to the manager of safety because it belongs under the manager of safety program. And programming, and not under the police department, because our cadet program involves police, but it involves a lot of other things as well. And this is like one of those super complicated inside baseball things where like the budget, the line item of the budget that it is involved with it matters, whether it's in the police department or whether it's in the manager of safety, because those are two different budgets. Yeah, so that's why the move. Yeah.
Does the charter get changed one item at a time? Or is there a requirement to periodically review the entire charter?
So the question is, does the charter ever get changed all at once, or is it just a series of one-offs? The answer is it's a series of one-offs. And usually it happens when we run into a problem, right? So, I mean, to the charter of the City and County of Denver, you can find it online and read it when you're really bored one night. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages long, and it's extremely prescriptive because it was written in 1916. So, like when we're talking about things like collective bargaining with our bargaining units, particularly the sheriffs, the firefighters, and the police officers, like the things that they can bargain on and the things that they are not allowed to bargain on are written into the charter. It's very odd, but it's old, and that's what happens. It's just things just got thrown in there over time, and we feel really strongly that it's time to start cleaning some of that stuff up, but it's all one-offs. It's what happens when, like, the Civil Service Commission comes and they say, Council, can you please help us out with this? We need to fix some stuff because we can't function in the role that we're supposed to be doing with the way the charter says that we have to. We need to make changes, and the only way to make those changes is to go to a vote of the people. So it's all one-offs as problems come up.
I wish to know that some cities do have a comprehensive review required, for example, every 10 years to go through the whole thing, not to make a change, but to have a commission that reviews the entire charter.
I hear you. Like I said, let's rip it up and start all over again. Yes?
I don't understand what remove the citizenship requirement means.
Yeah, so last year you all voted on a charter change that removed the citizenship requirement for police officers, fire, and sheriffs. So our charter, unlike the vast majority of charters in the country, said unless you were a citizen, a citizen of the United States of America, you could not work as a police officer or a firefighter in our city. And while that made a lot of sense in 1916, when the charter was written, it doesn't make sense now because we have DACA families, we have green card holders, we have, right, all of these kind of different immigration classifications on a federal level. And all of those people are here legally. And they would like to work. And they are members of our community, and they would like to give back to our community by serving in the police department or in the fire department or whatever, and they can't. So you guys voted yes on that last year. We missed the Civil Service Commission piece when that was written last year. So that's why it's in here, because this is a change to all of the different things within the Civil Service Commission. Yeah, but that's a great question. Other questions? Okay, we're going on. So Excel, let's talk about Excel. This is a little wonky and crazy, but I'm just gonna tell you all about it. Excel has a franchise agreement with the City and County of Denver. A franchise agreement is a very clear piece of paper, and it says you have the right to use city-owned right-of-way to do your business, which Excel's business is giving us all power and electricity, right? We want power and electricity. This is a good thing. So the City of Denver likes it because we need to have a clear understanding of who is using our right-of-way and how they are using it, right? The Excel likes it because they're a business and they need to know very clearly what the parameters are so that they can put together pro formas for projects. So the franchise agreement makes a lot of sense. It accomplishes a lot of things. It is something that is negotiated every 20 years. Welcome to year 20. So the franchise agreement, unlike almost every other city in the country, has to go to the voters of the City and County of Denver. I don't know why, but it does. So you will see the franchise agreement on your ballot. There are also two other pieces of this agreement that you will not see on your ballot that have already been approved into ordinance. One is an agreement with the airport for power out at the airport. That doesn't go to the voters, but it is between Excel and the airport to manage the power situation out there. The other one is what's called a partnership agreement. And the partnership agreement was what really got like fought out and negotiated between last year and this year, because what it is an agreement that says Excel is going to invest this much in the community. They are going to make sure that they set aside this much of their revenue for to support low-wage homeowners who can't pay their electrical bills through the LEAP program, et cetera. So there's a lot that this partnership and franchise agreement both kind of manage. And I think we have gotten to the right spot with it, which is why I voted to refer it to the voters. So you guys get to decide, which is really scary because we got to have a franchise agreement. But here we are. So you guys will get to decide whether we did a good enough job of negotiating on your behalf to get the things that were important to you as the residents of the city and county of Denver into this partnership agreement that ensures that Excel and the city of Denver are strong partners for the next 20 years. Yeah.
To your knowledge, is the charter agreement materially different than it was 20 years ago?
The franchise agreement?
Yeah, the franchise agreement. And if so, was it just technical changes that occurred, or they're sort of...
Denise, you want to take this one? You want to talk about this one, or you want me to do it? Okay, so the question was, and it's a good question, is the franchise agreement the same as it was 20 years ago, or has it substantially changed? And the answer to that is that it has substantially changed because the partnership agreement has substantially changed. So the franchise agreement itself is really straightforward. It says you get to use our right-of-way to bring power to our residents, and in exchange for that, we are going to let you use our right-of-way to bring power to our residents. Like the franchise agreement is real straightforward. Where the real conversation happened was in the partnership agreement. And that partnership agreement is very different from the partnership agreement that happened 20 years ago. It is much stronger. It is much better. And I will say, outside of the partnership agreement, Excel agreed to and found $500,000 of capital money to invest to fix the Leedsdale substation. So that awful fence that's around it, all the hot mess, graffiti, and all the things at the Leedsdale substation right there next to George Washington High School, Excel has committed $500,000 to fixing and renovating that so that it does not look like a giant eyesore in the middle of our community. That is outside of the partnership agreement or the franchise agreement, but was negotiated as a part of it. Other questions? Yes. Oh, wait, you just asked one. Do you mind if I go to her first? Okay, go ahead.
I'm just wondering where alternative sources of electricity fit into all this.
Great question. I'm going to let Denise answer because she's got the question was, where do alternative sources of energy come from and where are they in this partnership agreement and franchise agreement? And I'm going to let Denise talk about that one because she is like the Excel expert. But it is absolutely addressed in there. Yes.
So mine was similar to my other question. Is this two line items then, the franchise agreement?
No. It's the Denise, it's one, right? And the partnership agreement is essentially the companion ordinance piece, right? So you either vote thumbs up or thumbs down on them both.
On the whole thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Other questions on this one? I will answer yours if I can, and then I'm gonna move on because I want to give Denise a lot of time because it's complicated. So go ahead.
No, we're just wondering, regarding data centers and stuff, is Excel involved, would be involved in that if that happens?
Excel is always involved in data centers because of the amount of energy that is required. I don't know if Denise is qualified to talk about that, but I think she can. I'm getting a thumbs up. Thanks. So yes, it's a great question. I will just remind you, City Council approved a moratorium on the development of data centers while we put in place regulations in our zoning code to actually think and talk through like the impacts of data centers. There were no data centers that were impacted. There's only one data center being built right now in Denver. It's up in GES. The residents there are very angry about it and they have every right to be, but that is already approved. And so, we can't retroactively go back and change that now. Data centers, we could talk data centers all night. So happy to talk more about that with you. I will say Councilmember Watson and Councilmember Cashman are the two council members who are running the legislation and the community conversation around what kinds of regulations we need to put in place when it comes to data centers. I will just point out, we have 62 data centers in the city and county of Denver already, and you guys don't even know that they exist, right? Because the vast majority of them you walk past every day or drive past every day and you don't know that they're a data center. It's these mega data centers that are being built like out on the Kansas plains. Those are the ones that are a real concern. And while it's unlikely that anything like that would ever be built in the city and county of Denver, we've got to make sure that we have those regulations. And even for these smaller data centers, we need to be thoughtful about setbacks. We need to be thoughtful about noise. We need to be thoughtful about water usage and energy usage and all these things. So there's a lot there, which is why we put a pause on accepting any more applications for data centers in the city and county of Denver for a year to kind of go through our zoning code and create the right zoning for data centers in general. Yeah. But when it comes to like data centers and energy and Excel, Denise is your expert on that one. So, yeah. All right, last one. Oh, I'm sorry. One more question. Yep.
I'm interested in the 1% of electric revenue to underground power lines. How much is that per year, and how much will it cover to put power lines underground? And follow up, if there is a new subdivision built, will they immediately put things underground or start with the overhead?
That's a great question. That is an Excel question. But the 1% set aside here for undergrounding is specific to not new development, but the fact that like in my backyard, we have a pole that runs through, right? And the electric wire is on the top of it. Do you guys have that out here? Or are yours undergrounded? Yours are undergrounded already. So as Excel is doing projects in certain areas, they underground where they can. So like, I'm gonna give you a really good example in District 5. This was actually set up and negotiated by the previous council member. She did a great job of this, but in South Hilltop, right by George Washington High School, there was a flooding issue. And so they needed to put in some storm drainage. So when they did the storm drainage project and all of the alleys were ripped up to put the storm drain stuff in, Excel undergrounded the lines at the same time. So that's what that is. Does that make sense? Yeah, absolutely. All right, all other Excel questions I'm leaving for Denise. Let's talk foie gras ban. You guys, okay, so here's the deal. I don't know. There is a ban on foie gras that has been put on the ballot. There are two ways that something can get on the ballot, both in Denver and in the state of Colorado. And the first way is that city council refers it to the ballot. So everything you looked at up to this point was referred by city council. This is a citizens initiated ordinance. This is an ordinance that was put on the ballot by residents who gathered over 9,000 signatures to put this on the ballot. This was put on the ballot by an activist group, the same activist group that put the fur ban that you guys voted on last November and the slaughterhouse ban. I was like, I know there was another one. Same group. They've come back with foie gras. So they got enough signatures to put it on the ballot. I will tell you, I used to live in San Francisco, and it was hilarious because San Francisco has a foie gras ban. But the federal land that the Presidio is on is federal land, so they don't listen to the city and county of San Francisco or the city of San Francisco. So you could always go get foie gras at the Officers Club in the Presidio, even though it's in the middle of San Francisco. So I don't actually understand how that's going to work here, because one of the things that this does is it bans the transport of foie gras, right? So we have I-70 and I-25 connecting essentially all of the state of Colorado. So if this bans the transport of this product through the city and county of Denver, like, I don't know. They collected their 9,500 signatures. It's on the ballot. Do with it what you will. I don't know. These are the most important pieces of it here. It also, I will say, requires DDPHE, our Department of Public Health and Environment, to enforce this ban. We do not have the staffing for that. We do not have the training for that. We do not have the education for that. But no one asked. It's on the ballot. So do with that what you will. It is a citizens-initiated ordinance. This is why I always say to you guys, know what you are voting for. Yeah.
It's also a good example of why citizens initiatives should be the last resort, that they should first come to the council or the legislative body so you can chew on it and work through all of these enforcement costs, all of those kind of issues. For each
Yeah.
times, these guys haven't done that.
No, they have done no stakeholdering at all. It's just on the ballot. Correct. Yeah, I mean, whether you're a vegetarian or not, I think is not, it's just, it's a process issue for me. Yeah. 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 Question?
Is this an existing issue in Colorado?
No.
Or a potential issue in Colorado?
I have never heard of it before.
Okay. So if anything, a potential issue.
Yeah, I don't know. Yes. Citizen Amanda Sawyer here. How can I help you? On why we should not have a strong mayor form of government? Because they don't work very well. Because the number one thing that I hear from my residents is, why can't XYZ happen, right? I was having a conversation with someone the other day and they were like, my kid almost got run over by a hooligan on his e-bike in the park. And I'm like, I have feral teenagers, so I get to say this. Like, the issue of feral teenagers driving their e-bikes through the parks of District 5 is bad, and it's a safety issue, right? But what I have to say is, well, that's not me. That's managed by Parks and Rec. We'll ask them to stop it. And Parks and Rec is like, no. And then that's it. That's the end of the conversation, right? So the residents do not feel like they are well represented or that they are successful in advocating for something that they feel is really important, that is their tax dollars are being paid for. And so it sets up like a clear conflict because you don't see the mayor's office here. And this is not just this mayor, last mayor too, that I worked with, right? They didn't answer their phone. They didn't have office hours in the community. They didn't have conversations in the community unless it suited them. So it wasn't them talking to the residents saying, my kid almost got hit by a feral teenager on an e-bike in our parks. It was them talking to me. Only I don't have the power to fix it because they don't work for me. Every other city in the state of Colorado, with the exception of Colorado Springs and Pueblo, are what are called council manager forms of government. And council manager forms of government are forms of government where there is a professional CEO type city manager who actually manages the city. And then the city council sets the policies and instructs that city manager to implement those policies. So you know it's being done by someone qualified, who understands what they're doing, who knows what the requirements are, who talks to other city managers and so understands what peer cities are doing and all the things. It's essentially a professional person who manages a city. It's not what we have in Denver. What we have in Denver is whoever you guys like best, even if they're not qualified. And that is the problem with a strong mayor form of government. Okay, I'm back. Hello. I think it's time for Excel. Oh, Steve.
Well, we got into that conversation about council manager versus strong mayor. I point out Aurora has a council manager, and yet they've had terrible problems with their police department.
Okay, we're diverting.
Yep, we're not going to talk about that. We're talking about
There's no easy solutions in politics.
there are no easy solutions in politics. You are right about that. All right, thank you guys so much for having me. It was so great to see you. Reach out if you have any questions. Are our office hours here in September? I think we're back here for office hours in September. So look in Windsor Life magazine, and the dates I believe are in there, or look online because we always put it up a couple days ahead of time. Come visit us and hang out with Matt and I. We'll be here. Thanks, everybody.